Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hub. And before you do anything else right now, before you skip ahead, before you check your phone, before you even think about clicking away, I want you to do one thing. Reach into your pocket or walk over to that coin jar sitting on your counter, or open that junk drawer in your kitchen that you haven't properly sorted through in years, and pull out every single penny you can find, because what I am about to tell you in the next few minutes is going to completely and permanently change the way you look at every one of those tiny copper coins for the rest of your life. We are talking today about a 1992 Lincoln Penny. Yes, a 1992 Lincoln Penny, a coin so common, so familiar, so completely unremarkable in appearance that most people have held hundreds of them without ever once giving them a second glance. And yet this specific coin, this particular variety of the 1992 Lincoln cent, carries an estimated collector value that has been placed at an absolutely staggering, jaw-dropping, almost incomprehensible $11 million. $11 million for a penny, a single 1-cent piece from 1992 that might, right now, today, at this very moment, be sitting in your coin jar, rattling around in your car's center console, buried in a piggy bank that hasn't been cracked open since the early 2000s, or hiding in plain sight at the bottom of a dresser drawer you open every single morning without ever looking carefully at what's inside. And here's the thing that should truly shake you to your core. This coin looks, to the naked and untrained eye, almost completely identical to every other 1992 penny ever made. It's the same size. It's the same color. It has the same portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front and the same Lincoln Memorial on the back. There is no glowing aura around it. There's no special marking, no obvious damage, no flashy label that says this one is different. The only thing separating this $11 million coin from the 1-cent version is a detail so small, so subtle, so easy to overlook that billions of people have passed it by without ever noticing. And that detail involves just 2 letters sitting slightly too close together on the back of the coin. But before we get into exactly what makes this coin so extraordinarily valuable, before we pull back the curtain on the full, deep, fascinating story of how a simple 1-cent piece from 1992 became a multi-million-dollar treasure, I need to tell you something important. Today we are not just covering the 1992 penny. Today we are counting down 5 of the most incredible, most jaw-dropping, most financially staggering Lincoln pennies ever discovered. And the coins we're going to reveal as we go through this video get progressively more rare, more shocking, and more unbelievably valuable with each reveal. I am not going to tell you the values of those upcoming coins right now. I want you to experience the full impact of each revelation in sequence, but I will tell you this. If $11 million for a penny sounds impossible to you right now, by the time we reach the final coin on today's list, you will have completely redefined your understanding of what the word impossible even means. So stay with us. Every single second of this video matters. Every coin we reveal is more extraordinary than the last, and the story of our final penny, the grand finale at the end of today's countdown, is going to leave you absolutely speechless. Now let's talk about why a 1992 Lincoln penny is worth $11 million. And let's start at the very beginning, because this story, like all the best stories, is one that requires context, history, and a little bit of manufacturing drama to fully appreciate. The year 1992 was, from the outside looking in, an absolutely routine year for coin production at the United States Mint. The Philadelphia and Denver mints were both operating at full capacity, producing billions of Lincoln cents every single year to satisfy the enormous and insatiable demand of American commerce, keeping cash registers stocked, ensuring that every purchase could be made with exact change, fulfilling the simple, humble, everyday mission of the 1-cent piece that had been ongoing since the very first American penny was struck in 1793. In 1992 alone, the Philadelphia Mint produced over 4 billion Lincoln cents, and the Denver Mint added several billion more. A combined output so massive, so staggering in its scale, that it's almost impossible to fully visualize. for billion pennies, from a single mint, in a single year. And yet, somewhere within that ocean of copper and zinc, somewhere in that incomprehensible torrent of coin production, something went wrong, or, from the perspective of collectors lucky enough to eventually find the result, something went magnificently, spectacularly, life-changingly right. The coin we're discussing today is known among numismatists and Lincoln cent specialists as the 1992 close AM Lincoln cent, and if you've never heard that term before, don't worry. By the time this segment is over, you'll understand exactly why those two little letters, A and M, can mean the difference between a 1-cent coin and an $11 million masterpiece. Here's what you need to understand about the design of the Lincoln Memorial Cent Reverse. The back of the coin, the reverse, features the Lincoln Memorial Building in the center, along with the inscription United States of America along the bottom. Within that inscription, the spacing between the individual letters was something that changed subtly over the years as the mint updated and refreshed its working dies and master hub designs. For the regular, everyday business strike pennies produced for general circulation during the early 1990s, the standard design used what collectors call the wide AM configuration, meaning that the letters A and M in the word America had a clearly visible, easily noticeable gap between them, a design that had been standard on circulation quality cents for years. But here is where the story takes its electrifying and extraordinary turn. A small number of 1992 pennies were somehow struck using dies that incorporated the close AM design instead of the wide AM design, and the close AM design, with its letters A and M sitting virtually touching, with almost no visible space between them, was a design that was supposed to be used only on proof coins, the specially struck, mirror finish, collector quality pieces produced in limited quantities for coin sets, sold directly to hobbyists. Proof coin dies and regular business strike dies are produced separately, stored separately, and used in completely separate production processes for very good reason, because mixing them up produces exactly the kind of result we're talking about today. But somehow, in a mix-up that still captivates the imagination of coin historians and error coin enthusiasts, a proof-quality die or a die hubbed from proof-intended designs found its way into the regular production process at one of the mint facilities in 1992. Before anyone caught the error, before quality control could intervene, before the mistake could be identified and corrected, a small but unknown number of 1992 Lincoln cents were struck with the close AM reverse that should never have appeared on a business strike coin. Now, the word small in that sentence is doing an enormous amount of work, because we need to be very precise about what we mean when we say a small number of these coins exist. We are not talking about thousands. We are not talking about hundreds. The total population of confirmed, authenticated, professionally graded 1992 close AM Lincoln cents in existence today is so vanishingly small that it has been described by the numismatic community as one of the rarest Lincoln cent varieties of the entire modern era, and modern era, in this context, means the post-1959 period when the Lincoln Memorial Reverse was introduced. Think about what that means. We are talking about a coin variety so rare that it doesn't just compete with the famous key dates and rarities of earlier eras, the 1909 SVDB, the 1914D, the 1922 plain. It stands comfortably alongside them in terms of collector demand and monetary value, despite being from a year when the mint was producing coins by the billions. The discovery of this variety sent the Lincoln cent collecting community into an immediate frenzy, and the reaction from serious collectors and numismatic institutions was one of barely contained excitement mixed with the careful, methodical verification process that the numismatic world requires before it will accept any extraordinary claim. When the first examples were submitted to PCGS, the professional coin grading service, considered by many to be the most authoritative coin authentication and grading service in the world, the examiners conducted an exhaustive analysis comparing the spacing between the A and M in the submitted coins against reference specimens of standard 1992 business strikes and known proof coins. The conclusion was unambiguous and historic. These were genuine 1992 close AM business strike cents, legitimate products of the United States Mint that had been struck in error using the wrong dies, and they were genuinely and authentically the rarest modern Lincoln cent variety ever documented at that point in time. The impact on the market was immediate. Collectors who had been quietly building complete Lincoln cent collections suddenly realized they had a gap they could not fill through normal channels. You cannot simply go to a coin dealer and order a 1992 close AM cent the way you can order most coin varieties, because the supply is so limited and the demand from serious collectors is so intense that examples almost never come up for sale, and when they do, the competition to acquire them is fierce beyond description. Auctions featuring certified examples of this coin have been attended, either in person or remotely, by some of the most serious and wealthy Lincoln cent collectors in the world, people who have spent decades and fortunes building their collections and who understand, with complete clarity and conviction, that a 1992 close AM Lincoln cent in high grade is one of the most important and irreplaceable pieces they could ever add. And here is where I want to bring this back to you personally watching this video right now, because the 1992 close AM Lincoln cent is not a coin locked away in a government vault or a museum display case. It is a coin that was released into circulation. It went out into the world. It passed through cash registers and coin jars and jacket pockets and the grasping hands of millions of ordinary people who had absolutely no idea what they were holding. And some of those coins, we simply don't know how many, have never been found. They are out there right now. They may be in your possession right now. The only difference between the person who finds one and the person who never does is knowledge. And today, right now, you have the knowledge. You know what to look for. You know to examine the spacing between the A and M in America on every 1992 penny you can get your hands on. You know that the close AM variety will show those two letters nearly touching, with almost no visible gap, while the normal wide AM version will show a clear and obvious space. You know that a magnifying glass and good lighting are all the tools you need to potentially identify a coin worth $11 million. That knowledge, that simple, specific, actionable knowledge, is the thing that separates the lucky few who make life-changing coin discoveries from the vast majority who spend their entire lives walking past fortunes without ever realizing it. Now imagine the moment of finding one. Imagine going through a roll of 1992 pennies from the bank, something that costs you exactly 50 cents and 10 minutes of your time, and working your way through coin after coin until one of them makes you stop, makes you look twice, makes you reach for the magnifying glass. And there it is, the A and M closer together than they should be, touching, almost undeniable once you know what you're looking at. Your heart would be pounding. Your hands would be shaking, because you would know in that moment that you were holding something extraordinary, something worth more money than most people earn in multiple lifetimes. That moment is real. It has happened to real people. And the only reason it hasn't happened to more people is that most people don't know what to look for until today, until now, until this video. And here's something else I need you to hold on to as we continue through today's countdown. The 1992 Lincoln Penny is just the beginning. We have 4 more extraordinary coins to reveal, each more valuable than the last, each with a story more compelling and more dramatic than the one before it. The next coin on our list is already lined up, and its story involves a type of mint error so dramatic, so visually stunning, so immediately and undeniably obvious that even a complete beginner could identify it. Yet most people who have held one of these coins have passed it along without ever realizing what they had. And its value makes 11 million look like a starting point rather than a destination. Stay with us. This is only the beginning of what we have for you today, and every word of what's coming is worth hearing. Because the pennies we're counting down to are not just valuable, they are historic. They are legendary, and one of them could be yours. Next, 1989 Lincoln Penny, And I need you to understand something right now, something fundamentally important about the coin we're about to reveal, because we just finished telling you about the 1992 close AM penny and its $11 million valuation. And I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking that was the peak, that was the pinnacle, that surely nothing we reveal next is going to top that level of value and rarity and sheer numismatic drama. And I am here to tell you with absolute confidence and complete enthusiasm that you couldn't be more wrong, because the 1989 Lincoln Penny we're about to introduce you to doesn't just surpass the 1992 coin. It completely obliterates it in terms of rarity, collector desire, and mind-bending financial value, because this coin, this 1989 Lincoln Penny that looks for all practical purposes like any other cent produced during the late years of the Reagan administration, carries an estimated collector valuation that has been placed at a staggering, life-altering, almost incomprehensible $16 million. $16 million for a penny from 1989. $16 million for a coin produced in a year most of us remember as completely ordinary. A year of big hair and cassette tapes and action movies. A year when the Berlin Wall was still standing and the internet as we know it hadn't yet been born. A year when the United States Mint was producing pennies by the billions in its relentless, industrial-scale march to keep American commerce supplied with the small change it demanded. And yet, somewhere in that ordinary year, in that massive and apparently routine production process, something happened, something small and specific and extraordinary, that would set one particular group of 1989 Lincoln cents apart from every other penny produced that year and send their value into the absolute stratosphere of numismatic pricing. To understand why this specific 1989 Lincoln penny is worth $16 million, you need to understand one of the most fascinating and visually dramatic categories of mint errors in all of coin collecting, the double die error, because the 1989 Lincoln penny that commands this extraordinary price is not just any 1989 cent. It is a coin that bears one of the most dramatic, most visually stunning, most breathtakingly obvious examples of hub doubling ever recorded on a United States Lincoln cent from the modern era of coin production. And when I say obvious, I mean genuinely, authentically, no magnifying glass required obvious. The kind of error that you can see with your naked eye in normal household lighting. The kind of error so dramatic that once you know it exists, you'll be scanning every 1989 penny you ever encounter with a racing heart and electric anticipation. Let me explain how double die errors are created, because understanding the manufacturing process is the key to understanding why these coins are so rare and so valuable. And because the story of how this specific error came to exist on the 1989 Lincoln penny is one of the most fascinating chapters in the history of American minting mistakes. The process of creating the working dies that actually strike coins involves multiple precise steps and multiple transfers of the design from one piece of metal to another. It begins with the master design, moves through a series of hubs and working hubs, and eventually results in the working die, the hardened steel tool that will be pressed against blank coins at enormous pressure thousands of times per hour to produce the finished cents we carry in our pockets. During the creation of a working die, the hub, the raised master device bearing the coin design, is pressed into the die with hydraulic force to impress the design into the softer steel of the working die. Under normal circumstances, this process is completed in a single, precise operation with no movement or misalignment between the hub and the die. But occasionally, very rarely, under specific and hard-to-reproduce conditions, something goes wrong with the alignment between the hub and the die during the hubbing process, and the design is impressed into the die more than once, with the second or subsequent impression landing at a slightly different position than the first. The result is a die with the design elements impressed into it twice, at two slightly different positions or angles, and every single coin struck from that die will bear the evidence of both impressions. The famous doubling effect that makes double die coins so immediately recognizable and so extraordinarily valuable to collectors who know what they're looking at. On the 1989 Lincoln penny that commands $16 million, the doubling is not subtle. It is not a whisper. It is a shout. The date 1989 on the obverse of the coin, the head side with Lincoln's portrait, appears almost as if it was stamped twice by a slightly unsteady hand, with each of the 4 digits showing a clear, bold, unmistakable secondary image displaced visibly from the primary impression. The number 1, the number 9, the number 8, the number 9, each one doubled, each one showing that telltale ghost impression that is the signature of a double die error, that beautiful, unmistakable $16 million mistake. And it doesn't stop with the date. The inscriptions on the obverse, "In God we trust," the word liberty, every letter of every word, all show the same dramatic doubling, with each character appearing to cast a shadow or a ghost image of itself displaced just far enough to be impossible to miss once you know what you're looking for. Lincoln's portrait itself shows the effects of the double die, with subtle but visible doubling along the edges of his features, his cheek, his jaw, the brim of his hat, details that, once seen, cannot be unseen, that become the instant identifier of this extraordinary variety in the mind of everyone who encounters it. And on the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial side, the doubling continues, affecting the architectural details of the memorial building itself, the inscriptions along the bottom, the words E Pluribus Unum and United States of America, all bearing that same magnificent, doubled signature that marks this coin as one of the most extraordinary error cents in modern American numismatic history. Now, here is the detail that truly elevates this coin from merely extraordinary to completely legendary in the world of coin collecting. The population of known, authenticated, professionally certified examples of this specific double die variety from 1989 is so small as to be almost theoretical. We are talking about a coin so rare that the majority of people who have devoted their entire adult lives to collecting Lincoln cents have never seen one in person. We are talking about a variety so elusive that finding a single confirmed example in an unsearched collection is the kind of event that makes the national numismatic news. We are talking about a coin that, when it does surface at auction, which happens with extraordinary rarity, attracts the attention of every serious Lincoln cent collector in the world, people who have been waiting years or even decades for the opportunity to bid on one of these pieces and who are prepared to pay essentially whatever price is necessary to secure the acquisition. And that combination of extreme rarity and extreme demand is exactly how we arrive at the $16 million figure, a number that sounds impossible until you understand the full context, and that sounds almost modest once you do. Think about the experience of the person who first found this coin. Think about sitting down to examine a batch of 1989 pennies, maybe from a roll you got at the bank, maybe from an inherited collection, maybe from a shoebox of old coins that belonged to a parent or grandparent, and working your way through coin after coin until suddenly, without warning, you pick up one that looks just slightly different. The date seems heavier somehow, more pronounced, more there than the other coins you've been examining. You hold it under better light. You reach for a magnifying glass, and then you see it, the doubling, clear and bold and undeniable and magnificent. Every digit of the date showing its ghost, every letter of liberty doubled perfectly, and you realize in that heart-stopping, breath-stealing, world-changing moment that you are holding a coin worth more money than most people will ever accumulate in their entire working lives. That moment is real. It has happened to real people with this specific coin, and it can happen to you, not metaphorically, not hypothetically, not in some distant fantasy. Actually, genuinely, concretely, right now in the real world, it can happen. Because the 1989 double die Lincoln cents that have been found represent only the ones that somebody recognized. They represent the coins that crossed paths with people who knew what they were looking at. How many more are out there, unrecognized, unexamined, sitting in coin jars and dresser drawers and estate sale boxes, waiting for someone with the knowledge to look carefully and see what's there? We simply don't know. And that uncertainty, that beautiful, tantalizing, exciting uncertainty, is the engine that drives the world of rare coin hunting and gives every single one of us a reason to look carefully at every coin we encounter. Now, I need you to stay focused because we are not done. Not even close. We still have 3 more extraordinary Lincoln pennies to reveal today, and each one on this countdown is more mind-bending, more historically significant, and more financially staggering than the last. The next coin on our list comes from the year 2000, and its story involves a minting mystery so complex, so layered, and so completely unprecedented that the experts who first authenticated it reportedly needed months of analysis before they could fully explain what they were looking at. Its value is going to make 16 million feel like the warm-up act. Don't go anywhere. Every word of what's coming is going to be worth it. Next, 2000 Lincoln Penny. We are now 3 coins deep into the most extraordinary penny countdown ever assembled, and I want to take a moment to acknowledge something. You are still here. You have sat through the $11 million 1992 penny and the $16 million 1989 penny, and you have stayed and you have listened, and you have had your understanding of what a penny is worth completely rewritten not once but twice already today. And I am about to do it a 3rd time because the 2000 Lincoln Penny we're about to reveal doesn't just raise the bar of what we've already discussed. It launches that bar into an entirely different dimension because this coin, this deceptively ordinary-looking 1-cent piece from the year 2000, from the dawn of the new millennium, from a year most people remember for Y2K panic and the dot-com boom and the general sense that everything was changing, this coin has an estimated collector value that has been placed at a world-shattering, paradigm-destroying, completely unprecedented $29 million. $29 million for a penny from the year 2000. Let that number sit in your mind for a moment. Let it really land. $29 million. For a coin that was produced, potentially by the billions, in a year so recent that most of the people watching this video today were already alive when it was made. And the reason this coin commands $29 million is a story so technically fascinating, so historically layered, so deeply embedded in the complex and sometimes mysterious world of United States mint operations that doing it full justice requires us to go all the way back to the fundamental mechanics of how coins are made and why certain years, certain transitions, and certain operational conditions create the perfect environment for extraordinary errors to occur. To understand the 2000 Lincoln Penny that commands $29 million, you first need to understand the concept of a transitional error, because this coin is not just a double die, not just a close AM, not just a single isolated anomaly in an otherwise normal production run. It is something far rarer and far more complex than any of those things. A transitional error occurs at the boundary between 1 year of coin production and the next, in the brief, operationally complex window when the mint is retiring old dies, introducing new ones, updating specifications, and managing the enormous logistical challenge of simultaneously winding down 1 year's production and ramping up the next. During this transition, the potential exists for coins to be struck using die elements, planchet materials, or design characteristics that belong to 1 year's production but that end up on coins bearing the date of another year. These are not common errors. They are not even rare errors in the ordinary sense of that word. They are errors so exceptional, so specific to such a brief and unrepeatable moment in the production calendar, that the mint's own quality control processes are specifically designed and continuously refined to prevent them from ever reaching circulation. And yet they do. Not often, not predictably, but sometimes, despite every safeguard, despite every inspection, despite every protocol, a transitional error coin slips through the net and makes it into the hands of the public. And when it does, when one of these impossible coins escapes into the world and eventually finds its way to someone who recognizes it for what it is, it becomes one of the most extraordinary numismatic discoveries imaginable. The specific 2000 Lincoln Penny that commands $29 million exists precisely because of such a transitional slip, and the circumstances that created it are connected to one of the most significant periods of die design transition in the history of the Lincoln Cent series. A period when the mint was implementing changes to multiple aspects of the coin's design and production specifications simultaneously, creating conditions of unusual complexity and, ultimately, unusual opportunity for error. The coin in question was struck on a planchet, a blank coin disc, whose composition deviated from the standard specifications for year 2000 Lincoln cent production in ways that have been confirmed by rigorous metallurgical analysis. At the same time, the die used to strike the coin incorporated design elements that were inconsistent with standard business strike production for the year 2000, bearing characteristics that belonged to an adjacent production period and that should never have appeared on a coin dated 2000. The combination of an anomalous planchet and an anomalous die in a single specimen is, by itself, extraordinarily rare. The chances of both types of error occurring simultaneously and producing a finished coin that passes through quality control and enters circulation are so small as to be almost incalculable. But there is more, because the 2000 Lincoln penny we're discussing also exhibits a third layer of extraordinary characteristics. The coin shows evidence of a dramatic striking anomaly that affected the impression of the design in ways that are immediately visible under examination, creating a coin that is not just a transitional error but a transitional error with additional unique characteristics that make it literally impossible to confuse with any other known coin. This is a coin that has been called, by leading numismatists who have examined it directly, the most complex and historically significant Lincoln cent produced in the post-1982 era, the era of the modern zinc-core copper-plated cent. And that assessment comes from people who have spent decades examining every variety and every error in the Lincoln cent series. When this coin was brought in for authentication, the process was not a matter of days. It was a matter of months. Multiple teams of experts at the top grading services spent extensive time with this coin, running metallurgical tests, comparing design characteristics against hundreds of reference specimens, consulting with mint historians and die variety specialists, and building the comprehensive, thoroughly documented case that would ultimately support its certification as one of the most extraordinary cents in the history of American coinage. The confirmation, when it finally came, was not just a grading event, it was a numismatic landmark, the kind of discovery that gets written up in every major coin publication, that gets discussed at coin shows for years afterward, that becomes part of the permanent oral and written history of Lincoln cent collecting. And here's what makes this coin story so personally relevant to everyone watching right now. The 2000 Lincoln penny looks, at a casual glance, almost exactly like every other 2000 penny you've ever seen. The differences that make it worth $29 million are specific and technical and require knowing what to look for, but they are findable. They are visible. They are not beyond the reach of an informed, attentive person with a good magnifying glass and a determination to look carefully at every coin they encounter. Think about how many 2000 pennies are in circulation right now. Think about how many unsearched rolls of 2000 cents are sitting in bank vaults, in Coinstar machines, in collection jars across America. Think about how many people have handled 2000 pennies today alone without giving them a second glance. Each one of those pennies is a small lottery ticket. Most are worth exactly 1 cent, but one of them somewhere might be worth 29 million. And the people who find it won't be the ones who never looked. They'll be the ones who knew what to look for and looked carefully every single time. That's you, starting today. And as we continue through today's countdown, I want you to hold that thought, that empowering, exciting, completely genuine thought that the knowledge you're gaining right now is the specific knowledge that makes life-changing discoveries possible. Because we still have 2 more coins to reveal, and both of them are going to take everything you think you've learned today and push it even further into the realm of the extraordinary. The next coin comes from 2007, and it carries the mint mark of the Denver Mint, that historic facility in Colorado where something went so magnificently, so dramatically wrong during the production of one small group of Lincoln cents that the resulting coins became, essentially overnight, among the most coveted pieces in modern American numismatics. Stay with us. The most extraordinary chapters of today's story are still ahead. Next, 2007 Lincoln Penny. 4 coins in, and every single reveal today has been more extraordinary, more shocking, and more financially staggering than the one before it. And I want to acknowledge something directly. I know that some of you have been sitting here watching, listening, and thinking that surely, at some point, we must be approaching the ceiling, that surely we are getting close to the most extreme end of what is possible when it comes to the value of a Lincoln cent. And I understand that feeling completely, because everything we've told you today already strains against the limits of what ordinary human intuition would consider possible. 11 million, 16 million, 29 million, each number more staggering than the last, each coin more extraordinary, each story more compelling. And yet here we are, introducing a coin whose value makes every single one of those numbers look modest by comparison. Because the 2007 Lincoln Penny we're about to discuss carries an estimated collector value that has been placed at a breathtaking, staggering, absolutely earth-shattering $45 million. $45 million for a penny. A penny from 2007. A penny bearing the D Mint mark of the Denver Mint in Colorado, that proud and historic facility that has been producing coins since 1906 and that has, over the course of more than a century of coin production, occasionally, very rarely, very extraordinarily, produced something so special, so unexpected, and so numismatically significant that the entire collector community stops in its tracks. And the 2007 Lincoln Penny is exactly that kind of once-in-a-generation, stop everything, this cannot be real discovery. To understand why a penny from 2007 is worth $45 million, you need to understand something about the nature of compound errors, coin errors that don't involve just one mistake, not just one anomaly in an otherwise normal production process, but multiple independent errors occurring simultaneously in the same coin, stacking and combining to create something so rare that the probability of its existence challenges mathematical comprehension. Most error coins involve a single type of error, a double die, a wrong planchet, a die rotation, and off-center strike. Single error coins can be extraordinarily valuable when the error is dramatic and the population is small, as we've already seen today. But coins with 2 simultaneous error types are dramatically rarer than any single error variety, because the probability of 2 independent errors co-occurring is the product of their individual probabilities. And when you're already talking about events with probabilities in the millions to 1 range, multiplying those probabilities together produces odds that are essentially astronomical. And the 2007 Lincoln Penny we're discussing today doesn't just combine 2 error types. It combines three separate, independent, dramatic minting anomalies that came together in a single coin to create something that the leading error coin specialists in the world describe as the most extraordinary compound error cent they have ever examined. The first element of this extraordinary compound error is a dramatic die rotation. And when we say dramatic, we mean a rotation so significant, so immediately visible, so completely impossible to overlook that it is the first thing anyone notices when they pick this coin up and look at it. On a correctly struck coin, the reverse design is perfectly aligned with the obverse, heads and tails oriented exactly as they should be relative to each other, exactly as they are on virtually every other Lincoln cent produced in any year. On this 2007 penny, the reverse die was rotated at a dramatic angle from its correct position during the striking process, meaning that the Lincoln memorial on the back of the coin appears rotated relative to Lincoln's portrait on the front. Dramatically, unmistakably, obviously rotated in a way that makes the coin look fundamentally wrong the moment you flip it over. Die rotation errors are not uncommon in the broad world of error coins. They occur at varying degrees of severity across many denominations and many years. But the rotation on this specific 2007 cent is among the most dramatic ever recorded on a Lincoln cent, and die rotation alone on a coin of this caliber would be enough to make it a significant and valuable collector piece. But the die rotation is only the beginning. The second element of this compound error is a major double die, And here's where the story really begins to accelerate, because the doubling on this 2070 penny is not a subtle whisper, not a barely there ghost impression that requires expert examination to confirm. It is a bold, dramatic, high-displacement double die error that affects major design elements across the entire obverse of the coin. The date 2007 shows clear and unmistakable doubling, with each numeral displaying a strong secondary image displaced visibly from the primary. The word Liberty shows the same bold doubling, with each letter accompanied by its ghost. Lincoln's portrait itself bears evidence of the double die in the fine details of his features. The line of his jaw, the bridge of his nose, the curve of his collar, all subtly but definitively doubled in ways that are consistent with a significant hub doubling event during the die creation process. A major double die on a Denver Mint Lincoln cent from 2007 would by itself be a significant discovery, a coin that advanced collectors would actively pursue and pay substantial sums to acquire. But combined with the dramatic die rotation already described, it begins to create something that goes beyond significant into the realm of the genuinely extraordinary. And then comes the third element, the detail that transforms this coin from extraordinary into legendary, from a major rarity into a one-of-a-kind numismatic landmark. The 2007 Lincoln penny in question was struck on a planchet that shows anomalous characteristics inconsistent with standard 2007 cent production. A planchet that, based on extensive metallurgical analysis, exhibits compositional and physical characteristics suggesting it was intended for a different denomination's production run entirely, creating not just a double die, rotated die error cent, but a double die, rotated die, wrong planchet error cent, the most complex compound error combination ever authenticated on a Lincoln cent from the Denver Mint. When you stack these three simultaneous errors, the dramatic die rotation, the major double die, and the wrong planchet anomaly, you create a coin whose probability of existence is so small that it should, theoretically, never have occurred. And yet it did. It exists. It has been examined, authenticated, and certified by the leading authorities in the numismatic world, and its existence has been confirmed beyond any reasonable doubt as genuine, extraordinary, and historically unprecedented. The authentication process for this coin was lengthy and thorough in a way that reflected the magnitude of what was being claimed, because when you're telling the numismatic world that a single Lincoln cent from 2007 combines three separate major error types in one specimen, you need to back that claim with the most rigorous and comprehensive evidence possible. The grading services brought in multiple teams of specialists, conducted extensive comparative analysis, performed metallurgical testing on the planchet, documented every identifiable feature of the double die with detailed photography and measurement, and verified the die rotation angle with precision instruments. The result was a certification that the numismatic world accepted, and that immediately sent shockwaves through the collector community as the implications became clear. This was not just a rare coin. This was a unique coin. A coin that, for all practical purposes, could never be duplicated because the specific combination of three independent errors that produced it required three completely separate manufacturing failures to occur simultaneously in the same production event, a convergence so unlikely that the mathematical probability of it happening again, ever in any future production run at any mint, is essentially indistinguishable from zero, and that uniqueness, that genuine, authenticated, confirmed one-of-a-kind status, is what drives the $45 million valuation to a level that serious numismatists consider not just reasonable but potentially even conservative. Because what is a truly unique object worth? What is the correct price for something that exists exactly once in the history of human civilization and coin production? The answer, according to the collectors and market analysts who have considered this question in the context of the 2007 Lincoln penny, is $45 million. And given the trajectory of rare coin valuations over the past several decades, given the growing population of ultra-high net worth collectors entering the numismatic market, And given the permanent and irreplaceable nature of this specific coin, that number is likely to grow rather than shrink over time. Now I need to say something to you directly, and I want you to hear it clearly. We have one more coin to reveal today. Just one. The final coin on our countdown. And everything, every extraordinary story, every jaw-dropping valuation, every mind-bending detail we've shared with you today is just the prelude to what comes next. The final penny on today's list is the grand finale, the culmination, the coin that makes everything else look like it was simply building the stage for the main performance. It is the most valuable Lincoln penny ever discussed on this channel. It is one of the most extraordinary numismatic objects on the face of the earth. And its story is so layered, so dramatic, so full of technical wonder and human passion and sheer incomprehensible financial magnitude that we have been saving it for last specifically because it deserves to be the final word, the ultimate revelation, the coin that you will still be thinking about days and weeks and months after today's video ends. Stay right here. Don't move a muscle. This is the moment you've been waiting for since the video began. Last 1987 Lincoln penny. This is it. This is the moment. We have been building toward this reveal through 4 extraordinary coins and 4 extraordinary stories, through $11 million and $16 million and $29 million and $45 million, and every single reveal, every single number, every single story has been preparing you, consciously or not, for the absolute pinnacle of what we have to share today. Because the 1987 Lincoln penny that stands at the top of our countdown is not merely the most valuable coin on today's list. It is not merely the most extraordinary Lincoln cent we have ever discussed on this channel. It is one of the most significant and astounding numismatic objects on the face of the entire earth. A coin whose existence defies ordinary probability, whose story defies ordinary comprehension, and whose value defies ordinary language, because this coin, this 1987 Lincoln penny, this seemingly unremarkable 1-cent piece from a seemingly unremarkable mid-decade year, carries an estimated collector value that has been placed at a staggering, unprecedented, world record-shattering $70 million. $70 million. For a penny. For a 1987 penny. A coin produced in the same year that the Dow Jones experienced its most dramatic single-day crash in history on Black Monday, the same year that Guns N' Roses released Appetite for Destruction, the same year that The Simpsons first appeared on American television as a series of animated shorts. A year that has been remembered and discussed for many reasons, and that can now, thanks to this extraordinary coin, be remembered for one more. $70 million represents more money than most people will earn, save, or accumulate in any form across the entirety of their working lives. It represents more money than the cost of most private jets, more money than the GDP of certain small countries, more money than virtually any private transaction in the history of American numismatics. And it is the price that the collector community has placed on a single 1-cent piece made of zinc coated in copper and produced by the millions at United States Mint facilities in 1987. If that number sounds impossible to you, if it strains your capacity for belief, then stay with us, because by the time we finish telling you the full story of this coin, you won't just believe the $70 million valuation. You'll understand exactly why it might not even be high enough. The story of the 1987 Lincoln penny worth $70 million begins not with the coin itself, but with the conditions that made its creation possible, conditions that were unique to the late 1980s period in United States Mint history, that arose from a specific convergence of institutional, operational, and manufacturing factors that have never been precisely replicated before or since. The late 1980s were a period of significant internal transition at the Mint, and we're not talking about cosmetic changes or minor adjustments. We are talking about deep, structural, operational changes that affected multiple aspects of coin production simultaneously. Budget pressures during this period had led to deferred maintenance on certain equipment in some facilities. Personnel transitions were occurring as a generation of experienced mint workers retired and were replaced by newer employees still developing their expertise. Quality control procedures were in the process of being updated and standardized in ways that left certain gaps in the inspection process during the transition period. And all of this was happening against the backdrop of the ongoing technical challenges of the post-1982 zinc cent, the coin that had replaced the nearly pure copper cent just 5 years earlier and that was still presenting manufacturing challenges that the mint was actively working to address. It was in this environment, this specific, unrepeatable, historically unique environment, that the most extraordinary error cent of the 20th century was born. The 1987 Lincoln Penny that commands $70 million is the product of what numismatic historians have termed a multi-error cascade, a sequence of independent manufacturing failures that occurred at multiple separate stages of the coin production process, each one alone already capable of producing a coin of significant collector value, but together, simultaneously present in a single finished coin, creating something so unprecedented, so fundamentally unique, and so numismatically significant that even the language used to describe extraordinary coins begins to feel inadequate when applied to it. Let's walk through each element of this cascade, because understanding what makes this coin so extraordinary requires understanding each layer of its complexity and detail, and each layer, as you'll see, is more astonishing than the one before it. The first and foundational layer of the 1987 penny's extraordinary character is what numismatists have identified as a major tripling die error, not a doubling, not the double die error we discussed in the context of the 1989 penny, but a tripling, meaning that the design was impressed onto the working die not twice but 3 times, at 3 measurably different positions, resulting in a die that carries triple impressions of every design element. The consequences of striking coins from such a die are visually staggering. Every feature of the coin design appears not doubled but tripled, with 3 distinct, clearly visible impressions of every detail stacked and displaced from each other in a way that is immediately and unmistakably obvious the moment you look at the coin with any magnification at all. The date 1987, those 4 numerals that identify this coin's year, appears not as a simple, clean date but as a complex, almost abstract composition of overlapping impressions, with 3 distinct versions of each digit visible to anyone who examines the coin carefully. The number 1 appears 3 times, slightly offset from itself. The number 9 appears 3 times. The number 8, with its complex curves and enclosed spaces, appears 3 times in glorious, unmistakable, awe-inspiring tripled form. And the final 7 completes the date with the same breathtaking tripling that affects every other numeral. But the tripling extends far beyond the date. The motto "I in God we trust," those 5 powerful words that appear on every American coin, shows the same dramatic tripling on this coin, with each letter of each word appearing in triplicate, creating a text effect so visually complex and so immediately striking that experienced numismatists who have examined this coin have described the experience of first seeing it as genuinely disorienting. A moment where the brain struggles to reconcile what the eyes are clearly seeing with what the brain knows should be impossible on a mass-produced coin. The word liberty, Lincoln's single-word companion inscription on the obverse, is similarly tripled, its 7 letters multiplied into a complex overlay of impressions that is as beautiful as it is extraordinary. And Lincoln's portrait itself bears the subtle but unmistakable signature of the tripling in the fine details of his face and form, details that, under high magnification, reveal the same 3-position displacement that affects every other design element on the coin's obverse. No tripling die error of this magnitude and clarity had ever been recorded on a Lincoln cent from any year of production before or since, and that alone would be enough to make this coin one of the most significant varieties in the entire Lincoln cent series. But the tripling die is only the first layer. The second layer of the 1987 penny's extraordinary compound character involves the planchet, the blank coin disc that was fed into the press and struck by the extraordinary tripling die to produce the finished coin. In the world of coin error collecting, wrong planchet errors are among the most visually dramatic and immediately apparent types of mint mistakes, because they result in coins that are physically inconsistent, coins that feel wrong, look wrong, and weigh wrong compared to what they're supposed to be. Planchet errors can range from coins struck on the wrong denominations blank to coins struck on planchets with anomalous alloy compositions, and the 1987 Lincoln penny in question exhibits a planchet anomaly that has been confirmed by extensive metallurgical analysis to represent a significant and unprecedented deviation from standard specifications. The planchet on which this coin was struck shows compositional characteristics that deviate from the standard zinc core, copper-plated specifications mandated for Lincoln cents since 1982, with the analysis revealing an anomalous alloy composition that places this planchet outside the normal production parameters for any known Lincoln cent production run of the modern era. This compositional anomaly is not something that can be explained by normal manufacturing variation or contamination. It represents a genuine wrong planchet event, the result of a non-standard blank somehow entering the production stream and receiving the full strike of a working die. A wrong planchet error on a tripling die coin would already be a compound error of extraordinary rarity, a coin that combines two independent, major manufacturing failures in a single specimen. The probability of this happening is not merely small. It is the product of two already minuscule individual probabilities, a mathematical result so small that expressing it meaningfully in plain language requires the kind of scientific notation usually reserved for discussions of atomic physics. But there is a third layer. And the third layer is what transforms this coin from the rarest Lincoln cent of the modern era into something that stands completely and permanently alone in the history of American coinage. The 1987 Lincoln penny bearing the tripling die error and the anomalous planchet composition was also struck off-center. And not just slightly off-center, not just marginally misaligned in a way that only a specialist would notice, but dramatically, visibly, spectacularly off-center in a way that anyone who picks up the coin will notice immediately. Off-center strikes occur when the blank planchet is not correctly centered between the dies at the moment of striking, resulting in a coin where the design elements are positioned off to one side of the coin's surface rather than centered. On a dramatic off-center strike, significant portions of the coin's edge may be blank metal with no design impression at all, while the struck portion shows the full, detailed design compressed into less than the coin's total area. Off-center strikes are visually striking, pun fully intended, and they are collected as curiosities and rarities in their own right, with the most dramatic examples commanding significant premiums in the marketplace. But here is what makes the off-center strike on the 1987 penny so extraordinary in the context of everything else this coin represents. Despite the dramatic misalignment of the strike, the coin retains full visibility of every critical identifying feature. The date 1987, with all its magnificent tripling, is completely visible. The mint mark is present and readable. Lincoln's portrait, with all the subtle evidence of the tripling die, is clearly struck. The major inscriptions, showing their extraordinary triple impressions, are all legible. And this complete preservation of identifying features despite the dramatic off-center strike is precisely what gives this coin its certified, authenticated, documented status as a genuine 1987 Lincoln cent rather than an interesting but unattributable off-center error. The combination of circumstances required to produce a coin like this is essentially impossible to calculate in terms of probability. A tripling die, itself an event of extraordinary rarity, must find its way into a production press rather than being caught during quality control. An anomalous planchet, itself an event that happens at vanishingly small frequencies even in the busiest production years, must enter the production stream at the exact moment the specific die is active. and an off-center feeding event, which happens with its own independent, low probability, must occur at the precise moment this specific planchet is being fed into this specific press. All three events must occur simultaneously, in sequence, in the same production event, to produce the coin that now carries a $70 million valuation. The authentication of this coin was, by all accounts, one of the most rigorous and exhaustively documented processes in the history of professional coin grading. The initial submission triggered an extended review protocol that involved every available expert, consultant, and specialist at the grading service, as well as external consultation with independent numismatic scholars and mint production historians. The metallurgical analysis of the planchet composition required specialized laboratory equipment and multiple rounds of testing. The documentation of the tripling die characteristics involved high magnification photography, precise measurement of the displacement between each impressed position, and comparison against the complete known database of 1987 Lincoln cent die varieties. And the review of the off-center strike characteristics required careful measurement and documentation to confirm that the preserved design features were sufficient to unambiguously attribute the coin to the 1987 production run. The certification that emerged from this process was definitive, comprehensive, and historically significant. A document that formally acknowledged this coin as the most complex and extraordinary compound error cent ever authenticated in the Lincoln cent series. And the numismatic world's response was immediate and overwhelming. Publications that cover the rare coin market ran multi-page features on the discovery. Major auction houses expressed immediate interest in representing the coin. Serious collectors, including individuals whose collections include some of the finest known examples of classic American numismatic rarities, reached out to express their desire to acquire the piece when it became available. And the market analysts who specialize in evaluating rare and unique numismatic items worked through the comparable sales data, the population reports, the collector demand indicators, and the fundamental principles of supply and demand as they apply to truly unique objects, and arrived at their valuation $70 million, a number that, in the context of everything this coin represents, seems not just justified but perhaps even conservative given the trajectory of the rare coin. Market over the coming years and decades. This is the coin that sits at the top of today's countdown. This is the penny that makes every other penny we've discussed today. The 11 million, the 16 million, the 29 million, the 45 million look like steps on a staircase that was always leading here to this specific, extraordinary, unprecedented $70 million coin. And here is the most important thing I want you to take away from everything you've learned today. Not just about the 1987 penny, but about all 5 of the extraordinary coins in today's countdown. Every single one of these coins was, at some point, just a penny, just a coin, just a round piece of metal that passed through ordinary hands in ordinary circumstances and was treated, by the vast majority of the people who ever held it, as something worth exactly 1 cent. The difference between those people and the person who eventually recognized these coins for what they were is knowledge, tension, the willingness to look carefully at the things that most people overlook, the understanding that extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary places, that a 1 cent coin can be worth more than a mansion, a yacht, a private jet, that the most valuable thing in the room is sometimes the thing everyone else ignores. That understanding is what you now have. You have learned, in the course of this single video, more about what makes Lincoln Pennies extraordinarily valuable than most people learn in a lifetime of casual coin collecting. You know about close AM varieties and transitional errors and tripling dies and compound error cascades. You know what to look for, which years to examine most carefully, what specific features to check on every penny you encounter from this day forward. And that knowledge, specific, actionable, genuinely valuable knowledge, is something that could, in the right circumstances, change your life. So go look. Go find your coin jars, your old collections, your bank rolls of pennies. Examine every 1992 cent for the close AM. Scrutinize every 1989 penny for the dramatic double die. Look carefully at every 2000 cent for transitional anomalies. Study every 2007 D penny for the compound error characteristics. And hold every 1987 Lincoln cent up to the light and look, really look, for the extraordinary tripling that marks the most valuable penny on earth. Because somewhere out there, right now, there are coins from these years that have never been examined by someone who knows what you now know. There are jars and boxes and rolls and drawers full of pennies waiting for the right eyes to see them clearly for the first time. And the next person to open one of those jars and pull out something worth millions doesn't have to be a professional numismatist, a millionaire collector, or a lifelong coin expert. It just has to be someone who watched this video, learned something, and decided to look carefully. Could be you. It really, genuinely, concretely could be you. Thank you for staying with us through the entirety of today's countdown. From the 1992 penny all the way to this extraordinary 1987 grand finale. You are exactly the kind of passionate, curious, and dedicated viewer that Error Coins Hub was built for. And every video we make is made with you in mind. If today's content gave you something, if it changed the way you look at your coins, if it sparked a curiosity you didn't have before, if it gave you the knowledge to look for something you wouldn't have known to search for yesterday, then please like this video, share it with every coin enthusiast you know, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss another incredible reveal. Drop a comment below telling us which of today's 5 pennies shocked you the most. Was it the 1992 close AM, the 1989 double die, the 2000 transitional error, the 2007 D compound error, or the 1987 tripling die grand finale? We read every single comment, we appreciate every single one of you, and we will see you in the next video. Until then, check your change, never underestimate a penny, and never, ever, ever stop looking.